Hey everybody, Mario Menduni here. In this video, let's talk about keeping it simple when it comes to testing, especially phase one testing. Defining phase one testing as we are testing from scratch, new concepts, new quotes. Okay. So the idea here is that we want to eliminate as many variables as possible so that we can focus on finding strong body quote, right? So when I define the body quote, we're talking about this right here, right? Under the product. This is the body quote, okay? And you want to test on the same template. In my opinion, this is the way to do it, to find the strong quote. You want to test on the same exact graphic template. You want to test the same exact targeting. You want a very, very simple campaign structure. You want the only element to be the quote itself, okay? What we're looking for here are the outliers, the 1 in 20 quotes, the 1 in 100 quotes, whatever it takes, that's going to have great KPIs based purely on the strength of that quote, right? So now we need to know a little bit about our niche to not have the targeting way off. But we want to have the same targeting and we want to lean on as much data as possible. The more we know that niche, the better. And we want to find a quote that's going to carry this thing, and then we can develop it out and get this thing to thousands of dollars or tens of thousands of dollars a day. Okay. So let's just go through this one by one here. Okay. So we're going to test a lot of different quotes and concepts. It's important that you get the distinction between testing lots of quotes and lots of concepts. Okay. For example, if you're the only one copywriting and you write the same kind of messages, and you put 20 quotes on the board, did you really test 20 concepts? Or did you test maybe 2 concepts with 10 variations of each based on no knowledge as to whether that concept's going to work in your marketplace? Okay. So ideally you test concepts from a variety of places, whether it's doing rewrites of spy tools, whether it's searching for open love letters on the internet, going to Pinterest, going to Etsy, hiring copywriters from Upwork. Use a variety of sources, within your means to make sure that when you're doing this phase one testing, everything that you test is different enough, or else you're not truly testing as many quotes as you think you are. You're just testing a bunch of variations and hoping for the best. You're hoping that, one of your 2 concepts was a winner. Okay. All right. We want to test into the same exact niche, same exact audience, same exact design template, simple creative, okay? We want this quote to win or fail on its own, okay? We want to use very simple Facebook primary text, okay? So Facebook primary text is the text, again, if this is your design, I'm sorry, the text above in the top of the ad, okay? And this is a nice simple one, just basically imagine how she'll feel when she gets this, okay? If you start using long form text and putting links up there and they got to click up here and all this stuff, less eyeballs are going to get to the body quote. We want as many eyeballs and as many read-throughs as possible of this body quote and of the 10, 20, 100 different body quotes you're testing to find your outliers. Okay, the more read-throughs we get, the more data we get for our ad spend in this phase one part, and the more conclusions we can make, okay? Okay. We don't want to use a lot of graphic elements in your testing. Oftentimes, the graphics will decrease the amount of times that people will read through the quote, and it'll skew your data too. Like, let's say you do a plain background or a dark background with white text into your niche for one quote, and then you do a highly graphic design on a different quote. Well, you might get cheaper clicks on the very graphic one, and a higher click-through rate, but those clicks might be just more clickbaity curiosity clicks, right? We want the clicks to have high buyer intent, okay? Certain niches, the graphic element's going to be a lot more important than others, and in those niches, once you get to know them, you're going to be testing a lot of graphic elements to maintain a $1 million, $2 million, $3 million run rate, or even a multiple 6-figure run rate for the year. Okay, the graphics will become very important in certain niches, whereas they're not that important. Often the graphics can take away from your performance in others. Okay. All right. So for example, if we go back to this is a perfectly nice template. I might even get rid of these graphic elements here for testing. And then later on, when I have my winning quote, I would split test these and similar type borders as some of my tests to develop it out. So I would get rid of these graphic elements. I'd make this font bigger. I'd make the white bolder, and I'd probably have everything caps too. Again, I want as many read-throughs as possible of this quote. And then I would have this template, and I would test 100 different quotes on this exact template, and then look at the metrics and find my handful of outliers and see if we could develop them into 5-figure day winners. Okay. Okay, so you want to lean on as many stats that you know about your niche, whether it's from networking or listening to Coffee with Michael, or members of my group or what have you. If you know where most of the buyers are, for married men, obviously you're going to target married men, okay, above a certain age. That's an easy example, right? If you're targeting wife, targeting soulmate, unless it's a very niche quote, you're going to keep it real simple with, married men, engaged men, in a relationship, right? Demographic targeting. Okay, we want to make that very simple, all right? We also want to lean on stats that we know of the top selling SKUs. Like you guys have all seen it. Love Knot, for example, is one of the top, if not the top selling SKU. And so you could test everything with the same piece of jewelry, right? We want to test fonts that are highly legible, right? So with Facebook, we don't want to have, and also on Etsy, most of the winners I see are using fonts that are very, very readable, okay? Even bigger than this, right? You want to test into evergreen niches for most of the year. Exceptions, of course, being some of the main events, right? So if it's, right before Mother's Day, then the Mother's Day designs are obviously going to have a lot more momentum. If it's the fourth quarter, you can test very niche type stuff as well, right? Like, so I like to use fishing, for example, as an example of a niche that's got a lot of very set patterns, right? So when we look at fishing, when we look at fishing, okay, every year, if we look at fishing gifts, there is one primary time for selling this stuff. And fishing is the first niche I ever made any money in. And, for the fourth quarter, you can do very, niche designs like this. You can also get away with it a little bit for Valentine's Day. Might be able to get away with it for Mother's Day. You might be able to make a few bucks evergreen, especially have a market for this. But you can just test a whole bunch of fishing designs, coming into the end of October, find something and scale it. Won't be as much money as if you test one of the bigger evergreen niches, like, like to my wife, right? Or to my daughter or something like that. And those are the niches you want to stick with year round, okay? All right, campaign structure. We're keeping this simple, all right? We want one campaign per SKU. We're going to do a CBO, and the reason I'm testing phase 1 with a CBO is, I've been coaching for 3 years now and member of multiple drop shipping programs, multiple POD programs as a coach, as well as my own consulting program. I've seen in hundreds and hundreds of different ad accounts. I see too many, let's call them false positives, when people test with ABOs in the beginning. Like, I like to test ABOs once you are developing out a concept, you have a proven winner, maybe you're at higher budgets, you're testing a ton of different factors, you want data quick, okay? But for initial low-budget testing, I see too many times an ABO just gets a lucky pocket of people, and so you're not getting as clean a data as if you tested with a CBO. You may very well, quote-unquote, lose less money with ABO testing. You're going to get some lucky sales. But one of the biggest traps is to start developing out or trying to scale a concept, and it turns out that it just got some lucky sales. And I find that the CBO algorithm gives you much cleaner data as far as, if something picks up a couple sales, 2, 3, 4, 5 sales in the first couple days of testing with the CBO, I feel a lot more confident testing variations of it, trying to scale it, putting more budget behind it. But if I test 20 quotes and a few of them have 2 sales with ABOs or 3 sales with ABOs, a lot of these quotes are, if you're doing good copywriting and you have the same exact design template, like a lot of these quotes are going to have similar, results. They're all very nice. But what we're looking for are those outlier quotes that are just so much stronger than everything else. And those quotes at a small budget can get lost in the shuffle when, a quote that wasn't quite as good just gets a lucky, first $50 in spend and picks up some sales. It gets a pocket of people. And so I like to test with the CBO because the data is much more black and white to me. I've just, Facebook's obviously a proprietary algorithm, so I don't know all the factors. But when you look inside of hundreds and hundreds of ad accounts and millions of dollars and tens of millions of dollars in spend, and you see patterns, which I'm lucky enough to be in that situation and enjoy helping other people get success from this wealth of knowledge that I've been able to look at. And I just see way too many people think they're going to have a winner by testing with ABO and then switching over to CBO, and it just doesn't work. Okay. Whereas, my students, myself, and other people that I've just given free consults to that do CBOs, in initial testing with good KPIs, those oftentimes don't break your heart when you try to scale them with more variations and more budget to the original. Okay, the main KPIs that we can trust post iOS as of September 2021. Obviously, buying behavior. If people are purchasing, then money in, money out. If you spend $50 and you get 3 purchases, at $60, obviously this is something that's worth looking into. Okay. Now, the other things we want to look at are, our click-through rate, our cost per click, and CPMs, right? I like to use unique click-through rate, unique cost per click. I find that data to be cleaner, but you can have both up on your Facebook dashboard if you want to compare them. A lot of times they're identical. Sometimes they're not. And when they're not, then the variations can, again, give you kind of a false positive. If it's just the same person or a bot or some crappy traffic clicking on your ad over and over again, then you're not firing off the unique cost per click, so your data's skewed, right? So you got to get excited about something that's not worth scaling, much like I've seen with people testing first phase with ABOs, right? Okay. We want to obviously use consistent naming conventions so that we can very easily look at our dashboard, and after we've tested 20, 30, 50, 100 concepts, we can see which ones are working or what, right? So if you're going to test like wife and soulmate, make sure to put wife or soulmate in the name of that so that you can filter by it and then, compare the KPIs, right? Okay. And again, we're looking for those outlier quotes, right? Most of these things are going to fail. You're going to turn them off after $50. Some of them are going to have way better KPIs than everything else. And those are the ones that we can test variation after variation of copywriting, as well as variation after variation of graphic elements to take that thing from possibly break even or maybe it's a small profit margin at $1,000 or $2,000 a day, and you do one quote rewrite, and next thing you know, your $10,000 day is doing 25% profit margins, right? And I've seen it time and time again that a rewrite or a Franken quote or a combination thereof of something that's running at break even or a small profit or small loss, you do a rewrite and all of a sudden you're deep in the profit zone and scaling no matter what month it is, right? Okay, so that about wraps it up for keeping it simple and phase 1 testing. I'll see you guys in the next video.